This is just a quick information session about this project. In the end, there was just so many people that emailed me that I wasn't able to send this information out separately to everyone. So I'm just going to do it for everyone all at once. And there's a couple people that asked for a recording of this meeting, so I'm going to send that to them afterwards. Oh, there's still more people coming in. Okay, so there's 20 participants now. There's only 19 that said that they were available, but oh, more people. Okay, 21. Okay, I'll start now. Anyone that comes late, they can just look at the recording later on. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by saying a little bit about myself, introducing myself basically. I was born in Canada. I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Waterloo in Canada. I did a double major, double minor. I did majors in mathematics and science with minors in physics and biology. I went to Oxford for my PhD. I did chemistry at Oxford. And then later on, I did work in various different departments around the world, in computer science departments, material science departments, engineering, chemical biology, astrophysics, electrical engineering. I've worked in Japan, Singapore, United States, Germany, mainland China, all over the place in various different departments. So that's my background. And my work has been cited in more than 1,000 different papers. So this means that there's 1,000 scientific papers out there where they cited my work. And I started something called the Matter Modeling Stack Exchange. Some of you might have heard of Stack Overflow. So Stack Overflow has a website called the Matter Modeling Stack Exchange, which was started by myself. We now have 6,000 users, almost 6,000 users. So that's really taken off in the last couple of years. Some of my former research students, what they have done with me, for example, Nathan Bryans, he had just finished his undergraduate degree at the time. He started working with me in, I think it was like September 2014, he started working with me. And in November 2014, we had this paper published, Quantum Factorization of 56153 with 4 qubits, basically factoring a number on a quantum computer. Nathan is now Director of Artificial Intelligence at ATB Financial. This is now 9 years after he worked with me. This work actually made headlines around the world. People said that we broke the record for the largest number factored on a quantum device. Some people called this the mathematical trick that helped smash the record for the largest quantum factorization. But really, it wasn't that big of a deal. We just, we did that paper in a couple months. It's the fastest paper I ever wrote. This is another paper I want to feature here. From January to August 2015, I basically sent out a notice just like I did for you back in 2015, January, and I got some students, Emil Okada and Richard Tanburn. They started with me in January 2015. In August, we had this paper submitted. August 28th, 2015, we had this paper submitted. You can see Emil was in January 2015. He was in the second term of his first year at Cambridge. He's now a professor. Richard Tanburn, he was in his second year of his undergraduate degree at the time, and he's now a permanent researcher at Google's DeepMind. Also, this method that we invented in this paper, split reduc, it was used by the vice president of D-Wave. D-Wave is the first company to have released a commercial quantum computer. It's the first company ever to make a quantum computer that was purchased commercially. And the vice president of technology there, he emailed us saying, we're using your split reduc method. This was back in, you're able to see the whole screen. I'm not able to see the whole screen because of all these pictures of you on the side. I don't know if you can see, but it's supposed to say October 2015 there. So you're able to see the whole screen? Yeah, okay, good. So what's happening in 2023? That was like a quick, like 5-minute introduction about some of the work that I've done in the past, my background, my education, some of the areas of work that I've participated in the past, and some of the former students of mine. What's happening in 2023? Currently, I'm on paternity leave. I have someone entering the room right now. Okay. Currently, I'm on paternity leave. I had a baby in December, so I'm not doing any teaching this term. And next term, I won't be doing any teaching either. Right now, I'm volunteering my free time to help about 25 of you to get the experience of being a co-author on a paper, on a scientific paper. And I will say that it's not necessarily going to work out the way it did for these guys, okay? This paper, it wasn't planned that way, that 8 months later we would have a paper published. I had put out an advertisement for people that might have been interested in working with me on a project. We worked on the project, and it turned out that we happened to stumble upon, well, we invented this method while we were trying to solve some problem, and it turned out to be publishable. So don't expect that we're just going to get something published in 8 months with 3 authors like this. But sometimes some papers have 25 authors, okay? And this isn't just a random example. I was a co-author on this one. You can see my name in the middle there. And this is something that I envisioned for this group of students. This is actually a guaranteed paper. So there's a project that I have in mind where we can have 25 people as co-authors on this paper. We can all do this. It's a guaranteed publication. I can tell you why afterwards. But it's not, you know, don't complain that you're not getting something with just 3 authors, something like where you're a first author and there's only 3 people and it's being used by the vice president of D-Wave, because that's just not the way research works. They started a similar project to the one I'm proposing to you right now, and it just so happened that we managed to invent something while trying to solve that problem, okay? I'm telling you this because I've had a student after these 2, I had a student that was whining about how the project that I assigned to him was not, he said, I thought it was going to be more theoretical. Richard got a theoretical project. Well, no, I gave him a project that was computational. I told him to do some calculations, and he was basically grinding out a bunch of calculations on a supercomputer. And we discovered that there was a faster way to do those calculations. And so we invented this mathematical technique. But it's not like I gave him a project which had this like handed to him on a silver spoon, okay? That just happened to happen. You know, we got lucky. But there is a project where, you know, 25 of us can publish a paper together. And yeah, if you're okay with that, then let's move on. Some of the research interests currently at HPQC Labs are sustainable energy. That's one of my big areas of research right now. Another one is computational medicine. Another one is solving world hunger. Okay, I'm joking about this last one. I'm making it look like we're solving all the world's biggest problems, but that's just a joke. Actually, it's not a joke. Solving world hunger is actually something we're working on. So this reaction here, it's called nitrogen fixation. We take the most common molecule in the atmosphere and the most common molecule in the universe. We combine them to make ammonia. And why is this important? Well, ammonia is used for fertilizers. Fertilizers are used for agriculture and to produce food. In fact, 40% of the world's population is fed by, 40% of the world's population is eating food that was made using fertilizers that used this Haber-Bosch process, okay? The Haber-Bosch process, I assume most of you have heard of this. I learned about it in high school chemistry. I don't remember if it was A-level or GCSE, but I learned about the Haber-Bosch process in my chemistry textbook in high school. And the way the Haber-Bosch process works is that you need 400 degrees Celsius and 150 atmospheres pressure. So it's not something that happens with a low amount of input. This consumes about 2% of the world's energy supply. So it's a very energy demanding process, but it's a necessary process, because if we stop doing the Haber-Bosch process completely, then 40% of the world's population would go hungry, essentially, because this is what's used to produce ammonia, which is used in the fertilizers for feeding about 40% of the world's population. Okay, this molecule here, it's called the iron molybdenum complex. It is the active site of what some people call the world's most complicated enzyme, nitrogenase. That's the enzyme. It does nitrogen fixation at room temperature and room pressure. So there's nitrogen fixing bacteria. They do this process. They do nitrogen fixation at room temperature and room pressure. They don't consume 2% of the world's energy supply. Imagine if we can find out how this enzyme works. How are the bacteria doing it? Maybe we can save 2% of the world's energy supply, and maybe we can feed 80% of the world's population instead of 40% of the world's population. Okay? There's some places where it's too expensive to do this. Okay? So there is still world hunger. So maybe we can solve world hunger. Anyway, this iron molybdenum complex, it's extremely difficult to learn anything about it. It doesn't work in air. It doesn't work in the lab. It only works in the actual bacteria. It was only in 2014 that they discovered that the central atom here is carbon. They didn't know what the central atom was at the beginning. Like 10 years ago, people knew a lot less about this molecule than we do now. But we still need to figure out how this molecule works if we want to replace the Haber-Bosch process. This is an example of a reaction mechanism, particularly for the Haber-Bosch process. This is what the Haber-Bosch process looks like. It's a sequence of steps, and we know these energies, like 1,000 kilojoules per mole, 389 kilojoules per mole. We know that because we do the Haber-Bosch process in the real world in experiments. We don't have a profile like this for the iron molybdenum complex, for how it does nitrogen fixation. We don't know what these intermediates are. We don't know yet. So this is something that we can either try to do millions of experiments until we randomly figure out how it works, or we can try to do those millions of experiments in computer simulations and let the computer figure out what is actually happening. Or maybe we can do a million simulations of a million chemical reactions that we do know how they work and let deep learning figure it out. Okay, so there's a lot of different possibilities here. I've actually worked on this molecule recently. So here you can see a paper that I published in 2019. I was a middle author on this one. We did a paper on the iron molybdenum complex, and basically we calculated like one of these energies. And in the next few years, we hope to map out this entire reaction mechanism. But the difficulty is we don't actually know what the intermediates are yet. So we still have to work on that. Now, how do we calculate these energies? Like you can imagine for the Haber-Bosch process, we do this experimentally every day. So we can easily measure what these energies are. For a reaction mechanism where we don't know what the reaction mechanism is, it's better for us to calculate energies on a computer. So we can calculate the energy of this and the energy of this on a computer, for example, and take the energy difference, and that's how you can understand a reaction landscape like this. Calculating energies, all that means is solving the Schrodinger equation, okay? Finding the E in this equation, okay? Now, until now, all of the people in physics and chemistry are probably saying, okay, this is all common sense, common sense. I think there's some engineers and mathematicians here. Is there anyone here that did not take chemistry in their A-level or GCSE level? Let me see, how do I get the chat here? I can't see the chat because I'm sharing the screen. Okay, I see some people are raising their hand already. So, okay, I see two people raised their hand, Laith and Kara, the brothers, and Ahmed. Okay, 3 people have not taken chemistry. You didn't even do chemistry at GCSE level?
I did do it at GCSE level.
You did do it at GCSE level?
Just not A level.
Just not A level. Okay, but this type of reaction mechanism where you see these like this activation barrier and all this, you've seen this kind of...
Yes, yes.
Okay, so everything's common sense for the people that took chemistry and physics. Oh, I skipped a slide. So I was basically going to say this equation, it's a simple Schrodinger equation, just H psi equals E psi. This is just a differential equation, okay? So this H, when we expand out that H, we just get this, and this over here, it's called the Laplacian. It's basically like a derivative. So we have an equation with a derivative in it. And so now even the mathematicians know what I'm talking about. Okay, so everyone here knows this is all just basic science. You don't have to do a PhD to work with me. Okay, this is all just basic science. But anyone that's taken a first-year quantum course probably knows that you can only solve the Schrodinger equation by hand for like the hydrogen atom. Okay, if you want to do it for these bigger molecules, in these sums, you just have too many distances between electrons and protons and too many charges. It's just too many terms in the differential equation. So you can't do it by hand anymore. So we do it on the computer. Sometimes we use supercomputers because the molecules have so many electrons and so many protons that the differential equation is just too complicated. But we will provide the software to do this, okay? And once you have that software and you know how to do it, you can basically calculate the energy for any molecule we give you. So if we give you this molecule, or if I give you like 5 iron atoms, 6 carbon atoms, 2 sulfur atoms, 9 phosphorus, and you don't know whether or not that molecule even exists. Maybe it doesn't exist. You can calculate on a computer and see what the energetics are. Is it a stable molecule? Is it not a stable molecule? You can figure that out on a computer. You don't have to do experiments all the time. Okay, and not just molecules, but any substance, any material, even unknown substances that don't exist yet, or haven't been made before, you can check whether or not it's worth doing that experiment by solving the Schrodinger equation, finding the energy. Is this a stable molecule? Is it not? Computational medicine. Okay, the pathogen box molecules. This is a paper I did. You can see I'm the second last author on here. Camps is another faculty member at HPQC Labs. We worked on this together. This was the pathogen box molecules. It's basically a kit. It's basically a box of molecules. You can buy it from a store, okay? It's got a bunch of molecules in there which are already commercially purchasable, and you can already make these molecules. It's not like you have to do 9 years of drug testing on apes. These things already exist. Many of them are already approved by the Food and Drug Administration of the United States, which means it's probably also approved in the UK and Canada and everywhere else. And these molecules already exist, they're already available. And we basically took 13,000 of these molecules, and we took this over here, which is a protein, the spike glycoprotein, which is found on the surface of COVID viruses. And we calculated the energetics. We just calculated, like, for each of these molecules, what is the binding energy between this molecule and this spike protein? You know, is there a high chance of this molecule actually attaching to the spike protein, or is there a low chance? And we used this Autodoc Vina software. We found the best 1,000 molecules out of these 13,000. Then we filtered it further to this set of 10 best compounds. And then we did something called molecular dynamics, MD. So this protein and these molecules, they have a lot of electrons and a lot of neutrons, a lot of protons. There's a lot of forces between them, a lot of repulsions and attractions. These are all forces. We have millions of forces. Every electron-electron pair, every electron-proton pair in this protein has forces associated with it. So we do F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. We do that for millions of forces. So you're not solving these differential equations by hand. You're solving them on a supercomputer. We have millions of forces, and we do F equals ma for 300 nanoseconds of acceleration. And we see, basically, if we put this drug in the human body, what happens 300 nanoseconds later? Well, 300 nanoseconds after it gets to the protein, maybe it goes in the bloodstream for a while, maybe, who knows what happens. But when it gets to the protein, what happens? 300 nanoseconds later, does the molecule attach to the spike protein, or does it not? And so that's the question we were answering here. And we actually found a couple of compounds in the pathogen box. So these are readily available molecules that you can just buy. They're in a kit. And we found a couple of molecules that actually do attach to the spike proteins on the surface of COVID. So this is just an example where we can do things on a computer. Instead of doing 13,000 experiments, which is going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, we just did 13,000 simulations on a computer all at the same time. And if we have a CPU with 13,000 cores, that's all done in parallel. And in fact, the CPUs we're using, the computers we're using have about 60,000 CPUs. So you can do 60,000 molecules all at the same time if you learn how to do parallel computing and some of that stuff. Okay, sustainable energy, solar cells. I talked about small molecules like this, like ammonia. I talked about big molecules like proteins and drug molecules. We can also talk about materials. All a material is a bunch of atoms, right? Millions of atoms bound together. So let's say we take silicon and we add phosphorus to it and we want to check, is it now a better solar cell? What happens if we add nitrogen to it? That's called doping. We dope the material with a new compound and changes the properties. Does it become a better solar cell or does it become a worse solar cell? We can do these experiments forever. And in fact, people have been doing this since 1975. You see the best research cell efficiencies have gotten better and better and better. 2020, 2021, 22, 23. This is up to date from January 2023. The best research cell efficiencies have been improving even in 2023, but these require expensive experiments most of the time. We're now getting to the stage where supercomputers are big enough, the algorithms are good enough, we can actually solve the Schrodinger equation for materials, and we can see 60,000 cores on our CPU, we can test 60,000 different dopants. What are these dopants doing to the properties of the material? Is it making it a better solar cell? Is it making it a worse solar cell? The design of better materials is now starting to become in silico. That means, or in silico. That means done on a computer rather than in vitro or in vivo, if you're familiar with the lab terms. So we're starting to do this design on computers with computer simulations. I suspect that in the next few years, we're going to have a lot of improvement in solar cell efficiency. And basically, that's how investment in science pays off in terms of saving the environment. That's at least one of my interests. Now, the Schrodinger equation is still very expensive to solve. It involves a lot of computer time to numerically solve the Schrodinger equation. It's a differential equation, very multidimensional, lots of computer time needed. But people are now starting to work on deep learning the Schrodinger equation. Okay, so this is 2022, neural network for solving the Schrodinger equation. And this is basically like, yeah, I can give you a million, if I give the neural network 1 million cats and 1 million dogs, images of 1 million cats and 1 million dogs, then, you know, next thing you know, the neural network knows how to distinguish between a cat and a dog. And similarly, if we solve the Schrodinger equation on 1 million molecules, then hopefully that neural network will figure out how the Schrodinger equation works without having to actually solve the differential equation. Now it just knows, like, if you give me this molecule, this is the answer. Okay, so that's the goal here. And this is a data set of 60,000. 60,000 is on the smaller end for a data set in deep learning. Usually you'd involve quite a lot more than 60,000 items in your data set to do deep learning. But this is a start. You know, 2020, a friend of mine, Patrick Rinke, I visited him recently in Finland, and he actually told me about this recent paper he did. And he proposed to me, he says, I have a challenge for you. Can you solve the Schrodinger equation on these 60,000 molecules? And I said, sure, I can do it. I'm going to need 25 Oxbridge students to help me though. Okay. This is a smaller data set within the 60,000, 5,000 molecules, for which they call it the GW100 data set. And that's named after a 2016 data set called GW100, which is 100 benchmark molecules. Okay, everyone here is welcome to participate. We'll do a warm-up exercise where we start with a training set, which is just 100 molecules in the GW set. Now, one thing about me is that I don't fire people. No one gets fired from working with me. I give people second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh chances. Okay. basically your participation in the project ends when you quit. So whoever doesn't quit participates in GW5000. Whoever doesn't quit participates in GW60,000. Okay, so that's the way it works. You know, some people decide after a while that, you know, I don't like this project, or, you know, I'm struggling too much with my studies, and I need more time to practice my musical instrument, or to do rowing or whatever. So there's people, there's probably going to be fewer of you at the end than there are now, but I'm saying that everyone's welcome to participate at the beginning. If we have about 25 people and 100 molecules, that's about 4 molecules per person. The more people we have for GW5000 and 60,000, the less work each person has to do. So instead of solving the Schrodinger equation for 100 molecules, you're doing it for maybe 25 molecules. We don't know. Okay, we don't know how many people are going to be here at the end. Some people have already asked me to assign work to them. Some people send me emails saying, I want to do something. I just got off of my second term of the year, the Hillary term or the Lent term or whatever it is in Cambridge. And I have 7 weeks before the Trinity term starts.